abruptly because of fear for their jobs. In March of 1973, a series of events near Caracas, Venezuela, a few hundred miles to the south, established what may be a link between the very deep ocean areas of the Caribbean and the UFO. On March 22nd, hundreds of people witnessed a pair of flying objects trailing blue smoke as they approached from out of the sea and then hung motionless near the Caracas airport. Then, with a shrieking sound and a burst of orange flame, separated and vanished, one to the east and one to the west. For the next 9 days, UFOs rose out of the sea, hung in the air, remained motionless, and in various manners cavorted over the metropolitan city of Caracas, Venezuela. The Caracas newspaper, Ultimas Noticias, carried the UFO stories and reached the conclusion that thousands of its readers are now convinced that by evidence of their own eyes, UFOs have an undersea base in the Caribbean. UFO traffic into and out of the sea was seen by hundreds of witnesses. Other water areas have also been the site of UFO traffic. Teleportation occurs in the vicinity of a UFO. In May 1968, a well-known Buenos Aires attorney, Dr. Gerardo Vidal, and his wife and children, in a Peugeot 403, were teleported 4,100 miles by a UFO and put down near Mexico City unharmed. This Ford was teleported hundreds of miles in South Africa because it was near to a UFO which degravitated it and transported it, says the Flying Saucer Review. The aliens of the UFO are energy manipulators of a very advanced nature, far beyond our science. In the search for the method of communication with alien intelligences of space, such as the overlords of the UFO, some of the most significant work in the world has been done by Dr. L.G. Lawrence, president of the Ecola Institute of San Bernardino, California, a research foundation. Dr. Lawrence is one of the world authorities on the use of biological sensors, such as that of the friendly laboratory philodendron, which senses the pain of Dr. Lawrence. As he purposely burns his thumb on his hot pipe bowl, the biological sensor, the plant, reacts with a squiggle of recognition of Dr. Lawrence's pain on the laboratory instrumentation. This is known as the Baxter effect. Dr. Lawrence developed his 3-ton stellatron for sensing biological messages which might be running free in the universe. He sets it up in remote areas, and it is shielded from all electromagnetic radiation, such as all radio and TV radiation, for instance. It can be influenced only by the etheric or bioplasmic pulses that influence plant and animal life. On October 29, 1971, and again in April 1972, on the Mojave Desert in California, intelligent communication from the direction of Ursa Major was received. One star of that system we know is the North Star. The intelligent character of the overall pulse train is implied by the discrete spacing patterns and the repetition of recognizable patterns. Again, for the first time in public, you now hear the modulated signals, a message as yet undeciphered, which originate in outer space. This has been brought to you by special permission of Dr. Lawrence, and it is a scientific first. Dr. Lawrence reminds us that radio telescopes, such as this giant multi-million-dollar installation in Puerto Rico, have had no results whatsoever in either sending or receiving messages in space. Radio telescopes seem useless in receiving cosmic messages, probably because they are looking and listening to the wrong possible sources. He recommends biological sensors instead. His low-cost equipment has resulted in a tape recording of interstellar communication, and it is on file with the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C.
There is perhaps no more convincing witness to the UFO than the world-famous Israeli psychic Uri Geller, whose mind-boggling extrasensory powers have baffled millions of people all over the world. Geller believes that his powers are not unique to him. but are instead proof that energies exist in many different ways than those now known to science. Later, we will see Geller demonstrate his bioenergy powers before a live audience. Geller leaves little doubt about his feelings on the subject of UFOs.
Let me tell you, I've never seen an extraterrestrial being in my life. I wish I will, and I know I will one day. You know, maybe they're even around us, and we don't even know. Maybe they look like people. But I have seen UFOs. But other people, I'm sure if I'll ask who saw a UFO here, some of you will raise your hands up because they exist. I shot pictures. As a matter of fact, I had a fight with my publisher because I wanted to publish the picture of the UFOs that I took in the book, and he said no because it cannot be, it will be against your credibility. And I did it in the end because I'm not going to back away from the truth. I once seen, 1 minute. I once drove in the Sinai Desert. Do we have another minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
I once drove in the Sinai Desert, and believe me, with a high colonel and his driver, me and a doctor, and suddenly, in mid-air, in Sinai Desert, it's clear, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we saw this huge object that looked like a cigar shape hanging in mid-air. And let me tell you, it was as big as 3 New York blocks, and it was dark. It didn't look like a flying saucer. It looked like a cigar shape. And I was shocked. And immediately, I get goosebumps when I talk about it. I told the driver, please, look what, and the colonel, and you know what? They didn't see it. And they said, what are you looking at? I said, my God, can't you see that thing in the sky? They couldn't see it. So I think sometimes, what is really going on? Is it really implanted in my mind? Is it really not out there and only, or is it there and only the people who believe in it can see it? I don't know. There are questions that I can't answer myself.
Some call him a magician. Others call him a sorcerer. Some even call him a messiah. But whatever they call him, the world has never seen anyone quite like Uri Geller. So when Geller recently toured the United States, it was no wonder the crowds turned out to greet him, to witness his powers, and to line up for autographs on the cover of his new book. They stood in line because they had just witnessed an extraordinary sight. Hundreds brought with them broken watches and clocks, many of which hadn't run for years. Then they sat back and watched the bioenergy of Uri Geller go to work.
You can see that the second hand, can the camera show the second hand?
That'd be a tough shot, I think.
I don't know how to show it, that it's not working, but tell me if it's... Well, whatever,
Watches
it's not,
that he is working with. He's got a whole huge handful. How many there? Maybe 10.
I don't know. Let's go. This is what I want you all to do now, and I know it looks silly. I'm going to shout 1, 2, 3, and all of us are going to shout work. I mean, we're really loud and really talk to these watches because that's the way it works. 1, 2, 3, work! Listen, a little louder. It's your watches, you know.
We may have blown out the transmitter, I think.
One more time. 1, 2, 3, work! Hold this for me for a second.
Okay.
Now what I do is I sort of finally put an energy into it, and I say work, and I just talk to these watches.
His left hand over
and I'm sure
his
most
right
of them will.
and just clenching his
First
fist.
one.
He's clenching his fist over and over, just above the watches.
No. It's working. This is working.
It is. Okay, here's a watch that's working. Let me
Another one is working.
hand them to me, and I'll try and
these watches
identify the
are
watch.
working.
It's a very ornate
This is also working.
jewelry bracelet watch. Is
It's working.
The second hand is sweeping along on this.
Working. It's working.
Here's another one.
Working.
This is a Timex. Here's a Seiko watch that's
Goodbye. Now wait a minute.
Then, while hundreds watched and thousands more listened on radio station KVI, the city of Seattle witnessed the power of biological energy in an even more convincing form.
This is what I want you to do. I'm holding these keys in my hand very, very gently. And what I want you to do, Ken, is put your hands on these keys, cover them, and start with